Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Okay. Hari Om everyone. So in the usually starting whenever we do any such discussions, starting or a few the mari several shlokas number there is a tradition of chanting a whole set of shlokas at mari. These are either invocatory in sollala or mangala charanangal nu sollala. Mangala shlokams or shanti patha அப்படினு சொல்லுவாங்க. So reason வந்து எதுக்கு அப்படின்னா, essentially it is important to first align your mind to be able to receive or dwell deeper into these ideas அப்படிங்கிறது ஒரு விஷயம். ஏன்னா நம்ம எழுந்து கர்ச்சேசி, for example when you get up, we get up in a certain mood, mind ஒரு மாதிரி இருக்கும். And then when you start you wanting to do போகணும் ஒரு ஆஃபீஸ்க்கு போகணும்னா கூட you prepare your mind in a certain way. If you're going into a meeting, we prepare a mind in a certain way. கிச்சனுக்கு போகிறோம் வீட்டுக்குள்ள சமைக்கிறதுக்குன்னா you prepare the mind in a certain way. ஸோ எந்த காரியம் பண்ணுறதா இருந்தாலும் மைண்டை we align it to be able to do that activity to the best possible way. கரெக்டா? So in the invocatory shloka starting இதெல்லாம் சொல்றது வந்து this is essentially to align the mind to be able to go deeper into this subject. இது என்ன subject இங்க? Subject is the subject. I am the subject. The self is the subject. So we use this opportunity to Krishna video ஆனா வச்சுக்கோமா. So in fact others also நான் போன தடவை சொன்ன மாதிரி those who can as much as possible video ஆனா வச்சுருந்தேன்னா then even if you wanted to close your eyes it's fine, but stay on the video so that there is a certain exchange that we can have as much as possible. So when we do this kind of a dwelling deeper within, appo some of these invocatory shlokas ellame first வந்து நம்ம விநாயகர் இது பண்றோம், we are invoking Ganesha so that there are no obstacles in my learning. Then we are invoking the Guru so that we are able to receive the knowledge properly. Right? So these are various things. Then we invoke Shankaracharya, mostly whose translations and commentary we are going to study. Then we invoke Vyasa, Badarayana, who essentially is the one who's brought all the Vedas and made it available to us. So we invoke them in a certain way so that we become receptive to the understanding. In the understanding one that does not come only through effort. It needs to come through, it has to be received. So receiving அப்படினால எப்படி, when you have to receive something, what do you do? First வந்து கேட்போம், அதுக்கப்புறம் வெயிட் பண்ணுவோம். கரெக்டா? First we ask, which means we put the effort of asking, and then you wait to receive. You make yourself available for reception. Correct? Sorry?
You should be empty.
You should be correct. You should be empty to receive whatever is being offered. So now about it, if I ask and then I go, if I ask and I go away, and when the thing comes to me and I'm not available to receive, then you'll lose it. Correct? We will end up losing what we've asked for also. We have asked for it, but when you are not in a state to receive it, it will go wasted. So the ability to receive also is something that we have to build. So idallam vandu and the shlokangal, the starting shlokas and all that are for that essentially. To make ourselves in a state to receive and also to go deeper. receive பண்ணிட்டு it is not like a chocolate that you receive and you consume and you eat. அப்படி இல்லைல்ல. Even a chocolate you have to consume. Receive பண்ண அப்புறம் கூட what you have to do, the வாயில போட்டு நம்ம அதை மென்னு we have to process it and gulp it down. So that processing work is also ours. Correct? So which means you receive what is of. So first you request by means of invoking the various energies and the various aspects that are there. You invoke and then you wait to receive. Then you receive it. When it received, understanding comes in various forms. And the understanding you receive and then you process it within you. And then when you process it, then you assimilate it. Okay? This whole method is like this. And that is why it is called a Shravana Parampara. Shravana Parampara ni yen solrana pustakatha padichu nammalaala mudiyum. But when you listen to this knowledge, when you listen to this understanding, there is a much greater connect that happens inside. Because when you're reading, you have to read, then you close and you have to imagine. You have to imagine and process it later. Kekarche ennarudhu, when you're listening it, it's directly going into the processing framework. Pre-process edume illa. Pre-processing edume illa. Directly ulla pogum. And in fact, Nuchur avaroda talk la solluvar, if you are attentive enough and you're receiving enough, you will be able to, even while a satsang is happening, if you are sharply attentive, you can go into that state of samadhi. The important thing is, the attention is not on what is being said, rather the attention is on who is listening. Slowly, when we move the attention from what is being said to who is listening within me during this process of satsanga, then you're resting yourself in that I, in that aham, in that consciousness, in that atma. So the process of வெளியில வார்த்தைகள் கேட்கறது, சத்தம் கேட்கறது, அங்கேந்து வந்து I am now moving into a state that who is listening? Who is this trying to understand? Who is this processing it? Who is this observing this? Who is sitting here? Who is this? When we move our attention from what is being said to who is listening and who is perceiving, the purpose of satsanga is over. That is the purpose of satsanga. So, when we invoke, first only we settle our minds, we invoke, and then we wait to receive. And as we receive, we make ourselves to receive to everything around us. Everything that's happening around us, we make ourselves attentive, we make ourselves completely receptive. Because when we are studying Vedanta in whatever form, it does not matter it doesn't matter what is happening. See, a lot of times when we are studying Vedanta, we forget the fact that we are not studying another empirical science. We are not studying physics or geometry or business management or a subject padikile. It is about my own self. So when we are listening or studying or contemplating on Vedanta, it is important to become extremely aware of our surrounding also. It is ideal to be seated in a quiet environment, but if there is some noise or some disturbance that occurs in the environment, let us not get agitated. இப்போ நான் வேதாந்தம் விசாரம் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கேன் அப்படின்னா, யாராவது கத்தினா, யாராவது சத்தம் போட்டனா, வாய மூடு, நான் வேதாந்தம் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கேன் அப்படின்னு சொன்னா, then you are conflicting what you are doing. You can't get up and get agitated or get angry with somebody because you are doing Vedanta vichara. In fact, you should be able to assimilate that also. You should be able to assimilate your environment also. Appoda Vedanta becomes part of your process. Because what you're processing now is yourself, your own self. Right? So we started off with understanding why Vedanta is important, why understanding the mind is important. Vedanta, if Vedanta is a word that becomes too heavy, let's look at it as we are trying to understand our mind first. Our own mind நம்ம புரிஞ்சுக்க try பண்றோம். And there are methods that are offered by Mahan, all the masters have offered methods to understand our own mind. In a very structured way, they are saying there is a study. In a very structured way, you can understand the ways your mind works. When Patanjali Yoga Sutras, if Patanjali is talking about how the mind is, vrittis are there, how the mind is fluctuating, how it is doing all that, it is not Patanjali's mind. It is not some mind. He is talking about our own mind. இதுதான் ரொம்ப முக்கியம். சுவாமி தேஜோமயானந்தா, he will say, it is the problem with Vedanta study is we typically think of it as a study of some knowledge, and we think of it as a knowledge out there. And a lot of people, what they do is, after Vedanta, listening to Vedanta, we will come and apply it on other people. மற்றவ மேல அப்ளை பண்ணுவோம். நம்ம ரொம்ப ப்ராம்ப்டா we will try to apply it on others. Swami Tejamananda says, it is when you're studying or listening to this, listen to it that it is about you. The book on Vedanta is written about you. The topic that has been discussed is about you. Yaro sollirka, but he is talking about the same thing. He is not talking about something different. He is talking about the exact same thing. So the study, whenever we do the study, it has to, in fact, I spent a lot of time reading Jiddu Krishnamurthy's books when I was young. Jiddu Krishnamurthy, those who have heard of him, phenomenal philosopher, thinker. I've read a lot of his books, and it's very difficult if you actually read, actually listen to what he's saying, or actually read with intent, rapt attention, you will know that you will not be able to go past 1 or 2 pages without putting down the book, closing your eyes, and going into that contemplation. This is what should happen when you are studying Vedanta, when you are listening to or studying or reading it or listening to it, or whatever you are doing with Vedanta. இதுதான் நடக்கணும். அது கொஞ்சம் படித்தோமா, இப்போ பகவத்கீதா எப்போவுமே அதை சொல்கிறது உண்டு இல்லையா? பகவத்கீதா நான் 700 ஸ்லோகமும் சொல்லிட்டேன் 3 மணி நேரத்துலங்கிறது இல்லை. அதை எடுத்துட்டு ஒரு 2 ஸ்லோகம் எடுத்துமா, 4 ஸ்லோகம் எடுத்துமா, அதை வச்சுட்டு am I sitting down and letting it process? That processing is your effort, and it has to be done. Each individual's process is it. Right? We can't wait for somebody to constantly motivate and incentivize us. If you are keen, if you are interested in that, we have to sit with it. 2 page, 1 page, 1 paragraph, anything is enough. அது படிச்சோமா, அப்படியே உட்கார்ந்து process it. So this is important. Right? So இதெல்லாம் as a setting, as a stage setting, this is important, because as I said, we have to receive this knowledge in the right frame of mind. It is, and that is when it will have its benefit on us. Okay, sure. Number ipo konjam, let us go into a little bit of theory on how this whole thing has come into play. Okay, and this is also important because you know the context of what you are studying. In fact, if you go through a proper Vedantic course structure, they teach it in a much more structured way. Those who are interested can go through that. There are many courses offered by Chinmaya Mission, Dayanand Saraswati Mission. There are many such places where they offer such detailed courses on Vedanta. In fact, Swami Omkarananda also started. Our Pavam, he had to take samadhi, in between, but he had started a course for 5 years on this, a structured 5 years course, but it is in Tamil. He started a structured 5 years course. I think it's still happening, but there are such so there are such beautiful courses out there which starts with a proper structured way. Starting la anubandha chatushtaya appadinu sollila arambippa. So there are many basics that they will teach. Then they will go into certain basics of Vedanta, which is Tattva Bodha, Adi Shankarada works. They will take such works which are basics of Vedanta, and then they will come into Upanishads. So there is a method to this whole thing. But Namavanda, because we get introduced to a lot of these things in various ways, it is not that Vedanta, Upanishad, yaro sonnada namak theriyum illa. Pustakam kadaikiradhu, YouTube la kekala, yarkittayavadhu pesala. So all of this is available to us. So some of this introduction happens in a certain way, and the other important thing is none of these things is linear. Okay? A very beautiful thing about the Upanishad is said is that for you to understand the first verse of the Upanishad, you should have understood the whole Upanishad. Abdimba. So this is called what? Recursive loop is it? Which means to understand the first verse of the Upanishad, you must have understood the full Upanishad. Abdimba. Abdina oru tharava padicha poradunu solradhukku artham. That means you can't just go through it linearly, in a linear fashion, and you say you have understood it. You have to come back. So suppose you start with the first verse and you finish 18 verses of Ishavasya Upanishad. You have gone through each one. But now to understand the first one even better, after the 18th, now you pick up the first one, you will understand it even better. Then you go through each one again, you would have understood each one much better than you understood it the first time. Then you do round 2. Then you again come and then, hey, Vidyasamarga, I get a different understanding, a different feeling, a different experience of the same thing. This is what will happen. So to have completely understood one, you should have gone through the whole. But to go through the whole, you have to start with one. So that is the way you go. But what I'm trying to say is, it's not necessarily linear. Now first idu pannittu adukapra idu pannittu adukapra idu pannittu adukapram pannuvengiradhu illa. That's not necessarily linear. We can pick up anything. But the point is, it has to be done repeatedly. That is important. Now what I'm showing here as a structure is of the how the Vedas and the Vedanta are correlated. Okay, so Vedas namakku theriyum, right? Theriyum appadina we know, we are familiar or we are aware what the Vedas are, right? They are a corpus of knowledge. They are corpus. So Vedas is like saying physics appadinu solrom, correct? Mathematics appadinu solrom. Now, does mathematics have a creator or an author to it? Does physics have an author to it? Chemistry ku author irukka? Kadiyadu. Adu madri Vedas ku there is no author. Hence it's called apaurushaya. Paurusheya means that which is of a human being. Apaurushaya is that which is not of a human being, which means it does not belong to a particular individual. So you cannot say Vedas was written by so and so. It is a collection of knowledge that is received and perceived and transmitted by many rishis and sages. Correct? So Vedas, if yara sonnana Vedas apaurushaya, appadina yaravadhu mandela vandadane sollirpa, andha rishi yaru appadinu kekkalam nama. It would have come into somebody's, yes, it has come into various rishis' consciousness. They have revealed it, which is why Vedas is called as revealed knowledge. Adanalana idukku Shruti appadinu peru. Shruti appadina that which is coming through the hearing. You listen to it. what the rishis in their highest state of consciousness, they heard sounds. And the sounds they reproduced it through their mouth. And that has come out as Vedas. Vedic literature. So, in the same way as the sciences or mathematics or any of these studies, abstract studies, don't have an author, in the same way Vedas don't have an author. It's not a singular person. Okay? But Vedas contains all of this. So these days people are trying and finding out what all the Vedas contain. It contains all the studies of the empirical world. Which is, it's got the sciences, it's got the mathematics, physics, chemistry, geometry, algebra, all of that is available in the Vedic corpus literature. And it also, so it has the knowledge of the objects of the empirical world, and it also has the knowledge of the subject, which is the Atma, which is the knower. So Vedas has the knowledge of the object and the subject. The object all that we have studied till date in our college, in our universities, till even we do our PhD or doctorate, it is all the knowledge of the object, the objective world. Even if you go to the quarks, even if you go to the level of the Higgs boson, it is the knowledge of the objective world. Because all of this is you trying to know something else. You, the knower, is wanting to know something, an object. This is the objective world knowledge. Vedas, like idur part. The second part of the Vedas is the subjective world, which is I. The knowledge of the knower himself. Okay? So Vedas classify pannalam as broadly as objective knowledge and subjective knowledge. Objective knowledge is everything else. Subjective knowledge in the Vedas is called as Upanishads. So Yengalla Vedas wherever in the Vedic literature there is introduction or discussion about the subjective knowledge, that is titled as Upanishads or also called as Vedanta. Okay? So this is the high level classification. The other way it is also classified is the knowledge of the objective world is called Karma Kanda. Kanda appadina parts. Kanda appadina parts. So Vedas classified largely into two kandas: Karma Kanda, Jnana Kanda. Karma Kanda deals with everything that is about the objective world. And by the way, by objective world, it also includes all the Sapta Lokas. Bhu, Bhuva, Swa, Maha, Janaha, Tapaha, Satyam, and also the Lokas below, which is the Atala, Patala, Sutala, Talatala, Patala Varikyam. The 14 Lokas, the Sapta up and the Sapta down. The knowledge of the 14 Lokas is also part of the Karma Kanda. So even if you do karma to attain to heaven or to attain to the Brahma Loka Varikyam poronna kuda, that is part of the objective knowledge only. Subjective knowledge or Jnana Kanda is the knowledge of Aham, consciousness, self. So Karma Kanda, Jnana Kanda. So Renda, Vedas Renda high level pirichidlam. Now, this is for a person who is doing Vedanta Vichara or wanting to study the spiritual understanding that is offered in the Vedas. Now, the way Veda Vyasa had classified it as 4. Okay? Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda, Atharvana Veda. இது தெரியும் நமக்கு. ஓகே, 4 பிரிச்சிருக்கார். என்ன பண்ணார்னா, ஆக்சுவலி இட் இஸ் செட் ரிக்வேதா இஸ் த ஃபர்ஸ்ட் ஒன் தட் கேம். கரெக்டா? You would have heard of this. Rig Veda is the oldest Veda. It has got 1025 verses and so on and so forth. It is the oldest Veda. மற்ற வேதங்கள்லாம் வந்து it has an extraction from the Rig Veda. There are many Rigvedic compositions you will find in the Yajur, in the Sama and in the Atharvana Veda. அதனாலதான் if you take the Suktams, Shri Suktam எடுத்தோம்னு வச்சுக்கோங்க, for instance, Shri Suktam, there is a Rig Veda Shri Suktam, there is a Yajurveda Shri Suktam. அதுல டிஃபரன்சஸ் இருக்கும். அதனால்தான் நிறைய தடவை இந்த சூக்தங்கள்லாம் பார்த்தோம்னா you will see there are differences in some of the shlokas and some of the verses because they are from different Vedas. Just a side thing, Purusha Suktam, those you know, is the only Suktam that is known to be in the exact same way in all the 4 Vedas. புருஷ சூக்தம்க்கு அந்த ஒரு க்ளோரி இருக்கு, அந்த ஒரு மகிமை இருக்கு. That is only sukta that is presented in the same way. There is no Patha Veda. There is no difference between the 4 Vedas. Okay. So these are the 4 Vedas. Now, what is the way it is composed? So like for example, நம்மளுதுல prose, poetry, இப்படிலாம் சொல்லுவோம் இல்லையா நம்ம. If you look at Shakespeare, sonnet அப்படின்னு சொல்லுவோம். Anything that is written in 14 verses is called a sonnet. And I think Tamil there are various ways you call each of these. என்ன பதிகம்னு சொல்லுவோம், அப்படிங்கெல்லாம் வார்த்தைகள்லாம் இருக்கு. சொல்லு சத்யா.
வெண்பா அதெல்லாம் மாதிரி.
வெண்பா,
நேரிசை வெண்பா, அந்த வெண்பா, இந்த வெண்பா, அந்த ஆதி எல்லாம் இருக்கு.
Correct. So there are various forms மாதிரி. Each of these Vedathula வந்து the way it is composed, the way it is written, they have given it a certain name. So in Rig Veda they are called Rik. The verses are called as Rik. அதனால தான் Rig Veda ன்னு வந்தது. Yajur Vedathula they are called as Yajus. It is more in the prose form. Sama Veda is Saman, musical form ல இருக்கும். Atharvana Veda Atharva Veda it is called Atharvan. So these are different formats in presenting the content. Okay, so if you look at any reading of Atharva Veda, you will see they appear in the same way. If you see any reading of a Sama Veda, it will appear in the same way. So he has classified it structurally that way. Okay, that is one broad classification that Vedavyasa did. Subsequently, what he did is, within the Vedas, he broke them into 4 component parts: Samhita, Brahmana, Aranyaka and Upanishad. Now, one of the reasons that he has broken it into these 4 component parts is so that நமக்கு அந்த டைம்ல வந்து this ashrama was very important. Okay, varnashrama அப்படின்னு சொல்லுவோம். வர்ண ஒரு பக்கத்துல வச்சிடலாம், நம்ம பிராமணனோ க்ஷத்ரியனோ வைஷ்யனோ சூத்ரனோ அதை ஒரு பக்கத்துல வச்சிடலாம். பட் தி ஆசிரம தர்மா, which is பிரம்மச்சரிய, கிரஹஸ்த, வானப்பிரஸ்த and சந்நியாச, இந்த 4 ஆசிரமம் இருக்கு இல்லையா, these 4 ashramas were essentially created to, during your life stages, at different life stages, the first 12 to 18 years you do brahmacharya, then you do for another 12 to 18 years you do grahastha and so on and so forth, right? So there is some people classified as 25, 25, 25, some people classified differently, but whatever. The idea is at each stage, and because at time to different times or different yugas, these time zones also change. Correct? முன்னாடிலாம் வந்து you finish off studies in 12 years, or 7 வயசுல வந்து குருகுலம் போய் 17 வயசுல முடிச்சிட்டா 19 வயசுல he is ready to get married. At certain other different yugas that wouldn't have been possible, right? இப்போல்லாம் சத்தியமா முடியாது. 20 வயசுல எவனுமே nobody will be ready to get married. So the ashramas were classified essentially to say that first you study. The number of years is not important. Essentially, these stages of life is important. First you study, Then you apply the knowledge that you have studied in terms of gaining wealth, in terms of doing good for or enabling your society, building society, second stage, and building your own family. Building your family, building your society, second stage. Third stage is where you slowly withdraw from that, Aranyaka. Fourth stage is you completely give up material belongings, possessions, and go into sannyasa. So, again, broad classifications based on the ashrama dharma. Ashrama dharma tagadabadi, Vedavyasa has created this. So, Samhita portion is usually picked up when you are a brahmachari. So, Samhita la patalna, it is all chants. There are many chants that are there which the brahmacharis are supposed to memorize. That is in the Samhita portion. In the Brahmana portion, there are methods. Methods of the process of how to do a homa, how to do a yajna, how to do a certain worship. The how of things are written in the Brahmana. So Samhitala, there are chants or praises. Essentially, there are 4 important Vedic gods: Indra, Varuna, Agni, and Soma. The deities that we pray to, most of them don't belong to the Vedic gods. Vedic gods, why these 4? Most of the praises are attributed to these 4 gods or deities. Okay, Indra, Varuna, Agni, and Soma. These are the 4. But anyway, so the point is that
nature related.
Correct. It is largely nature related. So in the Samhita, there were many chants and praises in attribution to these deities and many other deities. So the brahmachari learns all of this. See, imagine chinna vayasula Saundarya Lahari, Bhagavad Gita, Vishnu Sahasranam, Lalita Sahasranamam, idu adu Vedangal adella kattundom. ஒரு 12-15 வயசுக்குள்ள கத்துட்டோம்னா, imagine our how you will feel so empowered if you're wanting to go into deeper understanding of the Vedic literature or deeper understanding of any of this. உள்ள போகணும்னா இப்போ கூட, if you remember, you will remember the shlokas that you learnt as a child from your party or appa amma or whatever. இப்போ ஒன்று புதுசாக கற்றுக்கணும்னா உயிரை போயிடுது. Correct? It's so difficult. So as a brahmachari, this is what we should do. Even in our household, inna pasangalukku vandu, they may feel enada adu ivlo force pandraalena, but I think it is important that kids, whether ava solrala illiyo, cassette avadu play panni, we constantly introduce them to these shlokas, these mantras. Yena association is very important. See, what happens is whenever you're studying something, there are 2 levels of association that happens. First is an association of what is, or essentially the words, the association of the words. The second is the association of the meaning. எப்பவுமே அப்படிதான். ஃபர்ஸ்ட் வேர்ட், அப்புறம் மீனிங். அப்படிதான் வரும் நமக்கு. கரெக்டா? ஸோ நம்ம வந்து சின்ன வயசுலேருந்து if you get associated to the words, then when the meaning gets associated, when you learn the meaning, rhymes சொல்ற மாதிரி, when you learn the meaning, அப்போ when you're learning the meaning, அப்போ word association அவசியம் இல்லை. word is already associated. meaning உள்ள வரச்சே டப்புன்னு உள்ள இறங்கிடும். அதனால்தான் there are people who make கோட் பண்ணுவாள், they quote from various Upanishads, various கிரந்தாலேருந்து கோட் ஏன் பண்றான்னா, சின்ன வயசுலேருந்து ஊறி இருக்குது. கரெக்டா? well நமக்கு வந்து we find it difficult to quote because it's not part of our system. நம்ம எதை இங்கிலீஷில் கோட் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கோம், அவன் சொன்னா இவன் சொன்னான்னு. பட் வேதத்துலேருந்தும் உபனிஷத்துலேருந்தும் கிரந்தத்துலேருந்தும் பகவத்கீதாலேருந்தும் கோட் பண்ணுறது இஸ் நாட் ஈஸி. யூ ஹாவ் டு. ஸோ that is done during the brahmachari phase. Samhita. the learning of that. First associate. Kela vasamsi jeernani yatha vihaya. Kattuko. Adi enna artham kuda theriyadu. Kattuko. Right? So this is, in fact, which is why we have started Soundarya. First, let us just chant, pannittu. Then we get familiarity with the words. Then we look at the meaning. The word therinja mari irukum. Meaning takkunu ulla irangirum. Therinja word ku meaning irangiradhu easy. So this is what it was structured. Brahmachari time la. Samhita. Then you come into Grahastha. Grahastha ashramala varache, what you do? Now all the knowledge that you have learned. That happens even today. When the children go to school, university, college, what do? You come and you now apply what you have learned. Okay? Of course, we electronics engineering, mechanical engineering, computers, you'll suddenly find a civil engineering guy sitting beside you and coding. Ennada sambandham illama vandirke appadinu paapom. Adi iniki appadi nilama. But ideal situation would be you learn what you employ. Right? You learn and then employ it for your employment. That is how typically it is. So Grahastha Ashramathil whatever you learn, but of course now you learn a lot of life skills. See, whether you do civil engineering or mechanical engineering or whatever, during engineering you learn a lot of life skills which you can apply during your employment also. So life skills you learn. It is not just sciences. So Brahmana, they have associated with Grahastha Ashrama because the Brahmana's text contains the house, what needs to be done. Kathunu vandutta 12 வருஷம் குரு கிட்ட இருந்துட்டு சம்ஹிதா போர்ஷன்லாம் கத்துன்னு வந்துட்டேன். Now Brahmana is how to apply this. இப்போ ஒரு இடத்துல ஒரு ராஜா கூப்பிடுறான், ஹோமம் பண்ணோம், ஒரு யஜ்ஞம் பண்ணோம், புத்திர காமேஷ்டி கேட்குறான், இல்லை மழை பெய்யறது கேட்குறான், இல்லை இது நிலம் வளர்றது கேட்குறான், இல்லை ஏதோ ஒன்று, whatever, for all that he's asked. So when there is a need to do all that, how do you do it? நீ கணபதி ஹோமம் பண்ணுறோம், சுதர்ஷன ஹோமம் பண்ணுறோம். The how, கல் எப்படி வைக்கணும், எவ்வளோ பெருசாக இருக்கணும் ஹோம குண்டம், how deep should it be, what is the size of each கல், what are the samagris that you put, what is the dravyam that you put inside, what should be done after what, இதெல்லாம் Brahmanasல இருக்கு. But while you're doing that, what needs to be chanted is in the Samhita. புரியுறதா? Samhitas are the chants, Brahmanas are the method. Correct? So that is the structure. So this is in the Grahastha Ashrama. So where you are now leading a family, you are setting up, building a family, building a society, and then you are employing all the skills that you've learned. Idu goes on for about few years, 25-30 years it goes on. Then you now feel that you want to go deeper. Then comes the Aranyaka. Aranyaka is named as Aranyaka because it is done in the forest. Aranyana forest. That which is done in the forest is Aranyaka. Now why in the forest appadina? What it means is you do it in isolation. Isolation la Vanaprastha is usually in isolation. So now you have done your familial duties. Pera pasanga vandachu. Nariya perukku kollu peranukku pera varthukku wait pannittu iruppa. Innum enakku Vanaprasthathukku time varala appdimba. So but at an appropriate time, then this thing is your societal duties you think are done and you think your next generation can take it on. You take into Vanaprastha. Vanaprasthathila what happens in the Aranyaka is you now try to internalize in the form of upasana. Okay? Now what you have done in the Brahmana, Samhita and the Brahmana, which is the Brahmacharya and the Grahastha, is karma. Now you are going into upasana. Upasana na eppadi adu ulvaangikkuradhu? How? Now I don't need to necessarily build a homakunda. How can I sit and do dhyanam on Lalita Sahasranamam? How can I sit and do Vishnu Sahasranamam and chant and visualize, internalize? How do I do dhyanam? க்ஷீரோ தன்வ பிரதேசே அப்படின்னு சொல்றச்சே நான் வந்து how do I visualize Vishnu? இது வந்து this happens in the Aranyaka or the Vanaprastha stage. So Vanaprastha வந்து even if you don't have a separate place to go as elderlies, wherever you are, you can disassociate yourself. In Grahastha, you are associating as much as possible. You are meeting with people, you are working for people, you are engaging in society, you are doing all that. In Vanaprastha, you slowly withdraw. That which you did actively in Grihastha, you do the opposite actively in Vanaprastha. You try to pull yourself out slowly. Now Vanaprastha is essentially where you are disassociating, you are letting go slower. It is okay. It is okay. Why? Why you are doing this upasana in Vanaprastha and letting go slowly? Because you are preparing yourself for sannyasa. The last stage. So sannyasa, what happens there is, now you have now withdrawn for when you go into sannyasa. Now in sannyasa, it doesn't mean ellarme avne kaavi potundu kalambi pononu avasiyam illa. It doesn't mean that everybody has got to wear an ochre robe and go. Sannyasa is again a further withdrawal inside. Now you are proclaiming to the world that I am no longer interested in any engagements in the world. I am going to spend most of my time in self-introspection, swadhyaya, Vedanta vichara, aham vichara, atma vichara, bhagavat seva, bhagavat vichara. These are the things that I am going to spend 90% or 85% or 80% of my time. Okay? In Vanaprastha you start doing this, but Vanaprastha you're still engaged. You can have your children, grandchildren come to you and ask for your help, they can ask for suggestions, they can ask for... So you're still engaged in the world from a consultative perspective. So Vanaprastha, think of it as you are now a consultant. You are not an executor, you are not a program manager, you are not a decision maker. You are now a consultant in Vanaprastha. As a consultant, now you are offering advice to who is seeking suggestions, but you are engaged in the world. யாராவது கேட்டானா, இப்போ நான் வந்து இங்கேருந்து எப்படி போகிறதுப்பா அப்படின்னு கேட்டானா வழி சொல்கிறதுக்கு எனக்கு எக்ஸ்பீரியன்ஸ் இருக்குது போகிறது, நீ இந்த பஸ் பிடிச்சி நீ இங்கேருந்து போய், யூ கேன் எங்கேஜ் இன் தட் as a consultancy. But you're not going to sit and start booking tickets for them and making sure you get the insurance for them. இதெல்லாம் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்க போகிறது. That is where you need to draw the line. You become a consultant. In sannyasa, you further withdraw yourself. You can tell them, என்ன இதில் தொந்தரவு பண்ணாதப்பா, கூகுளில் தேடிக்கோ அப்படின்னு சொல்லிடலாம். யாராவது வந்து கேட்டானா கூகுளில் தேடிக்கோ. அதுவும் முடியலை அப்படின்னா, if you want, once in a while you still engage. Because it is also our duty to transmit the knowledge that we have gained through experience. You should transmit, you should share. But in sannyasa, you are proclaiming, you are telling people that I am now going to withdraw. And idukku mela, don't drag me into day to day. என் பேரனோட குழந்தை பிறக்க போறான், என் பேத்திக்கு குழந்தை பிறக்க போறா, ஓடு இங்கேருந்து ஆஸ்திரேலியாவுக்கு, யூஎஸ்க்கு. ஐயோ என் வாழ்க்கை இதுலயே போயிடுது, எத்தனை பசங்க எத்தனை பேர் குழந்தைய பெத்து போட்டாலும் நான் போய் ஓடி போய் உட்காந்து பார்த்துக்க வேண்டியதா இருக்கு. Many people go through the struggle. They are not able to pull themselves, draw a line. The real issue is that people who know that there is something like Vedanta, there is something like Upanishads, there is something like Bhagavad Chintanam, விசார், இது மாதிரிலாம் விஷயங்கள்லாம் இருக்கு, ஸ்பிரிச்சுவல் இதுக்கு நம்ம ரீடைரக்ட் பண்ணலான்னு தெரிஞ்சவா கூட, even those who know, struggle through this phase of not knowing where to draw. And they keep running. Now it is again a self-effort. You have to tell what now is most important for you. நம்ம தான் சொல்லிக்கலாம். We have to decide. So that is the sannyasa ashrama. And sannyasa ashramatku, it is recommended, that is when you look at the Upanishads. So the 4 parts of a Veda, Samhita, Brahmana, Aranyaka, Upanishads, is in essence associated with the various stages of our lives. Now, as a brahmachari, can I look at Upanishads? Abdina question. Of course you can. It doesn't mean, see, these are not restrictive, these are only suggestive, these are only prescriptive. இது வந்து recommended. நமக்கு வந்து இது மாதிரி கிடையாது. It's not like the other theologies or the religions where it is இப்படி தான் பண்ணணும் அப்படிங்கிறது கிடையாது. This is suggestive. If you have a mind, a keen and a sharp mind, which can understand and dwell into deeper thoughts, why not in brahmachari take up the Upanishads? We saw an example of Durgaji with us. Brahmachari he is taken up to sannyasa. At least the way he is living, he is taken up to that.
சின்னதுல நம்ம இதுல நச்சிகேத்து கூட இருக்கு.
Nachiketas, excellent example. Nachiketa in the Kathopanishad, brilliant example to show how so if your children today show a deep interest for this, do not discourage. 60 வயசு ஆச்சுன்னா பண்ணு, இப்போ எதுக்கு இதெல்லாம் பார்த்துட்டு இருக்கேன்னு யாராவது சொன்னா, do not encourage that. சின்ன வயசுல if he is wanting to know, I'll tell you one other thing. சின்ன வயசுல if you start studying, understanding these things, that is the best time. Because the mind is so fresh and wanting to absorb and wanting to go deeper. நீங்க யோசிச்சு பாருங்க, would you have been in a better position to do meditation more deeper when you were younger or now? Actually நம்ம என்ன யோசிப்போம்னா, சின்ன வயசுல இதெல்லாம் பிஸியா எல்லாம் உலகத்துல எல்லாம் பண்ணிட்டு வயசான அப்புறம் மெடிடேஷன் பண்ணலாம்னு வராது. It will not come because you have not prepared yourself. So the preparation, we can use this time to prepare also. So kids are getting, and today knowledge is available everywhere. So kids are showing that interest. Please encourage them to learn all of this early in their journey of life. Because there is a possibility that they may turn up into an Nachiketa or an Adi Shankara. Who knows? Right? Adi Shankara popular ஆகணும்னு அவசியம் இல்லை. Adi Shankara was not popular during his time. The important thing we need to recognize, இன்னைக்கு எல்லாருக்குமே இன்ஸ்டாகிராம்ல number of likes வந்துதானா வந்து that determines my self-worth. My self-worth is determined by the number of likes I have on Instagram or Facebook today. I am not saying that. I am saying the ability to become an Adi Shankara or Nachiketa, these people became popular much later now. There are other people who popularized them. They themselves not popular during their time. They were not so popular. But the point is that you become you follow this path with such dedication. Dedication is possible at that young age. Of course, it needs to come along with experience and all of that, and that is where as parents also you need to guide them. Because sometimes kids go into this too deep at very young and then also drop it. That is also a concern. You need to be careful. Balance out பண்ணனும். Right? ரொம்ப idealism பண்ணிட்டு realism க்கு வராமே போய்டுவா சின்ன பசங்க. So then when reality hits them, they don't know how to deal with it. There is some amount of balance, but we don't need to restrict kids today. Okay. Now that is the Samhita, Brahmana, Aranyaka and Upanishad. This is how it is constructed within the Vedic literature. Now Vedas la vandu only Yajurveda has 2 kinds of branches. Shukla Yajurveda, Krishna Yajurveda. Shakha appdin solluva. Shakha na branch. Now several of us most of us would be belonging to Krishna Yajurveda. South la usually we belong to Krishna Yajurveda. North la there are Shukla Yajurvedis. South la most of us belong to Krishna Yajurveda. The Yajurvedis, those who are Yajurvedis belong to Krishna Yajurveda. Now what happens here is, this is an interesting story. Maybe we'll just talk about that story and we'll close today. Okay. So Vaishampayana was the guru for Yajurveda. So ivar enna pannar, Vyasar he created 4 Vedas and he created 4 upholders of the Vedas. Okay, he created 4 rishis, or he appointed 4 rishis to spread the knowledge of those Vedas. So Vaishampayana was for Yajurveda, and he had a Sishya called, so which means what existed was Krishna Yajurveda. Okay, what existed was Krishna Yajurveda, and that, which means it is called Yajurveda only. Okay, he taught Yajurveda. One of his students called Yajnavalkya, அப்படின்னு ஒரு student அவர். He is a very popular Upanishadic rishi, Yajnavalkya. அவர் எல்லாம் கத்துண்டு என்ன பண்ண ஆரம்பிச்சார், he started, because he was a very bright student, he started teaching, or he started showing off his knowledge to his other fellow disciples. Very, very bright, very intelligent. Because his name appears in so many times in the Vedic literature or Upanishadic literature, you can imagine the kind of person he would have been. Yajnavalkya was an exalted rishi, an exalted being, that way, a Brahmajnani. In fact, Brihadaranyakala, a large portion we spoke about earlier, Gargi and Maitreyi. Brihadaranyaka, a large portion is Yajnavalkya's Upanishads to his wife. Yajnavalkya's knowledge, transmission of knowledge to his wife. So he is that kind of a person. So he learned Yajurveda kathundar appuram indha mari solli kodukka aarambichar and all that. He started showing off his knowledge. Now there are different stories around this, but the basic idea is he did this. The guru got to know. Guruku theriya அவர் நீ என்ன பெரிய இது மாதிரி டீச்சர் மாதிரி சொல்லி கொடுத்துட்டு இருக்க எல்லாருக்கும் அப்படின்னு சொல்லி, without my approval or without my knowledge you are going and teaching people அப்படின்னு சொல்லி கோபப்பட்டு, he tells him, நான் சொல்லி கொடுத்த வேதத்தை எல்லாமே நீ கக்கு. You have to vomit out all that I taught you. Vomit out அப்படின்னு சொல்லி he gives him this thing order. So Guru solitar அப்படின்னு சொல்லி, he feels sorry that Guru misunderstood me or whatever, the mistake that I did. So he vomits out all the Vedas, and then immediately all the other disciples, they take the form of, now he's vomiting out his knowledge. When he's vomiting out his knowledge, all the other disciple students, they take the form of a small bird called Titiri. Titiri no chinna bird. They take that form, they come and consume that, what is vomited out. And other one, that is a story, it's called that what they vomited out and what they ate, that becomes Taittiriya Upanishad அப்படின்னு சொல்லுவாங்க. Titiri birds நால வந்தது Taittiriya Upanishad அப்படின்னு அது ஒரு story. Okay, so he vomited out everything. Now he needs to now learn the Vedas again. Okay, so what he does is he goes to Surya Bhagavan and he tells Surya Bhagavan, எனக்கு நான் கத்துண்டது எல்லாம் யஜுர்வேத எல்லாம் என்னோட குரு has asked me to vomit out. இப்போ எனக்கு கத்துக்கணும், எனக்கு உங்ககிட்ட இருந்து அப்படின்னு goes to Surya Bhagavan and he learns Yajurveda from Surya Bhagavan, and the Yajurveda that he learns from Surya Bhagavan is called Shukla Yajurveda, the bright or the white Yajurveda. Okay, ஏன்னா சூரியன் கிட்டேந்து வந்ததில்ல, ஒளியோட வந்ததில்ல, the light of Surya Bhagavan, it's called Shukla or the white or the light Yajurveda, the brighter Yajurveda. Yeah, there is Krishna Yajurveda. இது ஒரு பக்கம், இது ஸ்டோரிக்கு இது ஒன்று சொல்லுவா. But actually if you look at it structurally, the difference between Krishna and Shukla is, Krishna Yajurveda is unstructured, Shukla Yajurveda is structured. That is the technical difference between the two. Krishna Yajurveda will not have a certain structure, it will be in an haphazard manner. But Shukla Yajurveda has a particular structure to it, which is why it is called Shukla Yajurveda, because it's got a certain structure. Okay, so that is the story of how the Vedic literature was at a high level distributed. So we said Vedas lende it has got two knowledge, objective knowledge and subjective knowledge. Objective knowledge is all grouped together and we can call it as karma kanda. Subjective knowledge is jnana kanda. This is, as a spiritual seeker, this is important for us because jnana kanda is Upanishads. So the four things that you see on the right side, the first three put together is karma kanda. Samhita, Brahmana, Aranyaka put together is called karma kanda. Upanishad is jnana kanda. Okay, Nala Vedas, Yajurveda alone has two shakhas, Shukla and Krishna. Krishna is the unstructured Veda, Shukla is the structured. It has a structured form to it. It is called Shukla Yajurveda. So this is how the four Vedas and their branches are. And then there are Upanishad parts. Adu nama next session la paakalam. And then we will, I hope we can, next session we will probably start with the first shloka of Ishavasya Upanishad. Yeah. Okay.
ரொம்ப நல்ல இன்ட்ரடக்ஷன் அது. இட் வாஸ் மோஸ்ட் இம்பார்ட்டன்ட் இந்த ஸ்டெப். இது இட் எப்படி ஏன்னா இட் ஷோஸ் த பாத் ஆன் வாட் வி ஆர் கோயிங் டு ஸ்டார்ட் எம்பார்க்.
கரெக்ட்.
எடுத்தோடனே நம்ம ஈஷாவாசியம்னு அதோட வேதத்துலேருந்து நீங்கள் ஆரம்பிச்சது ரொம்ப ஸ்ட்ரக்சர்ட்.
ஆமாம், இது கொஞ்சம் கான்செப்டுவலி we get an understanding where we are placed and then we know where we are going. Yeah, so that. Om asato ma satgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om shanti shanti shanti. Om purnamadav purnamidam purnat purnam udachyate purnasya purnamadaya purnamevavasishyate. Om shanti shanti shanti.